good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to DCI Motorsports 1111, but also DCI Motorsports Unleashed, our podcast and BS bench racing night. So,
Yep. That's what this is all about, bullshitting.
that's right. So, I'm Brandon. My dad's over here, Don. And so tonight we're going to talk about camshafts and, well, pretty much everything about camshafts.
Well, we're going to hit on some of the highlights. We're not going to actually talk about everything about camshafts, but but I'm going to hit on some highlights. For an hour, you don't have enough time to go into camshaft theory or whatever, but try to explain to everybody what lobe separation angle means or what it is, and the lobe lift as opposed to valve lift. The difference between a roller cam and a flat tappet cam, a hydraulic roller ramp and a solid roller ramp, and things like that tonight. So we got some, I got a couple of cams laying out here to show you guys what the difference, and I'm sure most of you guys already know what a flat tappet and a roller cam looks like. Something I get asked a lot though is, people don't realize that flat tappet cams are cast. They're not machined out of billet, and the roller cams are not all of them, but most of them are machined out of a round billet. So it starts out as a round piece of steel, and they machine the lobes into it, in the cam journals, and then they have them hardened. But a flat tappet cam is a casting, and then they grind the lobes after they do the casting, and then flame harden the lobe. But so we're going to talk about that, and hopefully when I get done here, you guys have a little better understanding about lobe separation. Lobe separation is probably the most important thing on a camshaft, and I'm going to show you here real quick. Whenever I pull up my drawing board here, it sucks, but you guys will get the idea. But anyway. Hopefully you can all hear us tonight, because we had a few people tell us that we're not talking real loud, or our mics aren't picking us up or whatever. I got my mic right here in front of me. I can wear it on my shirt, but it kind of looks goofy. It looks like I got a cockroach on me or something. I don't know. but anyway, so camshafts. A lot of people pick the wrong cam. And even the cam manufacturers make these camshafts, and so let's try to understand why most camshafts have wide lobe separation. LSA stands for lobe separation angle, and what that means is that is the distance between the intake and the exhaust lobes. Okay, the peak is here on both of these, and it's the distance between those. All right, so if you want good manifold vacuum, and the manufacturers of automobiles have to have that for power brakes, or they used to. A lot of the newer stuff now has hydro boost, but in the old days when we had vacuum assist, you needed to maintain at least 15 inches or more manifold vacuum. And to do that, you had to widen the lobe separation angle. So the cam companies, they kind of copied that, not really knowing why the manufacturers were doing that. And that's not optimum for horsepower. And if you want to make torque and horsepower for, like, say, anything from idle to 8,000 RPM, we'll say 8,000 RPM, you want a tighter lobe separation. But it hurts manifold vacuum. And the reason it hurts manifold vacuum is, and I'm going to show you on my, you know what, my board sucks, so I'm just going to show you my hands. So, so anyway, what ends up happening, all right, so look at my fingers and how I'm going to adjust these. All right, this is wide lobe separation, all right? This is tight lobe separation. So look at the other side of the lobes from here around. So if you have tight lobe separation, your valves are staying closed longer, right? That makes more torque. You trap more cylinder pressure. When you make them wide, they're not staying closed as long, so you lose a little bit of cylinder pressure, and you're going to lose torque, and you're going to lose efficiency. So that's why a tight lobe separation makes more horsepower and torque throughout the RPM range. And you know what? For a long, long time, I hear guys, engine builders and cam guys and everybody tell me that you need a wide lobe separation. And it was funny because I was running 102 to 106 lobe separations 35, 40 years ago, and everybody's telling me I was doing it all wrong. And my cars were making a lot of torque, so I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, but they did. And so I argued a lot with people. Now, if you want power brakes and you need vacuum assist, yes, I agree. You need to widen the lobe separation. And in certain instances, like say for instance, if you have a real high RPM engine that's we'll just use a Pro Stock engine for example, that's going to run 10 to 12,000 RPM, and you need a lot of duration. So in that situation, you might widen the lobe separation a little bit to make the engine RPM a little bit higher. You can use the lobe separation angle for adjusting the RPM range also. Although I would rather adjust it with duration and ramp timing, and use a tighter lobe separation to get what we want, get the result we want.
So with a tighter lobe separation, though, you don't get the rumpity rump.
No, you do, and you get the tight one. That's what gives you the rumpity rump.
Oh, so the wide one doesn't.
Yeah, the wide one doesn't. That's why the factory uses a wide lobe separation. A lot of the factory cams are like 115 to 117 degrees, and they idle smooth, and that's what they need them to do. They need them to make a lot of manifold vacuum. And the other part of that is too, it makes it easier for the computer to tune. When you got a tight lobe separation, you don't have much manifold vacuum, so unless you're doing a speed density, if you're using a map sensor, you don't have much manifold vacuum. It's hard to tune the car. So you have to take that into consideration for fuel injection or whatever too. And unfortunately, the fuel injection companies, they've adapted to what the cam manufacturers are doing instead of making us a program so that we can run a tight lobe separation. If they would do that, the cars would run, our hot rods would run so much better.
So what would be like in a Z06 Corvette or Camaro or even like the Hellcats?
Well, those are all late model cars, so they all got the real wide lobe separation. Them guys, the manufacturers, what they're doing is they've got to meet emissions, and that's the other thing too. When you have so guess what's happening? Whenever you're taking the lobe separation up, you got a lot of overlap too. And that's what gives it that choppy idle. That got a lot of overlap on the camshaft, so that's why you get that stinky idle. Everybody's so used to the new cars with catalytic converters, and they get these old hot rods, and we build an engine for them that's got a little bit of overlap in the cam, and I get guys calling me up, man, this thing smells really, really rich. Well, at idle, it is really rich because the overlap on the camshaft. But we all like that overlap because we want that bump.
Mm-hmm. And I love that smell.
Yeah, I like the smell. I mean, it doesn't bother me. But when you tune them right too, and we're going to go over that at our podcast too, how to tune, the carburetor and ignition timing to make that better. So, and you can tell the difference between a finely tuned engine and one that's not tuned. The ones that sound really, really, really radical, they're not tuned properly. The ones that don't sound real radical, listen to a Pro Stock engine. Those things don't sound that radical. I mean, they're radical, don't get me wrong, but they don't sound like your typical Saturday night drag racer than when you go to a local drag strip and the guy don't know how to tune a carburetor and it's sitting over here going, that's not a tuned engine. If it's got a big cam and it's idling like that's because it's not tuned right.
Gary Andrews says, thanks for bringing the Poncho Power Tech to us guys.
You guys are welcome, man. I tell you what, I love Pontiac, so, and we're forging forward. Tonight, briefly, I'm going to talk about something that I'm getting ready to introduce, and I've been keeping it under wraps because COVID has screwed up everything. We're so far behind here at the shop, and not only that, everybody around us is always are so far behind too. So I started a project, and it was right before COVID. I started in 2019, developing 2 new cylinder heads for Pontiacs, and I planned on having them in the 2020 year. Unfortunately, because of the circumstances that we've experienced, all of us, over the last 3 years, it didn't happen. A lot of foundries had to close down because of mandates on masks and COVID and everything through 2021, and employees were quitting because they were afraid to come to work, and there's just a myriad of things that happened. So now I finally am moving forward with that, and hopefully we can get these new cylinder heads developed, and I can release them in the spring of 2024. That's the goal, and I think that that's going to be possible. I've just been kind of keeping it quiet because it hasn't been happening, and I don't want all the stress of everybody calling me and asking me when it's going to be available, because I couldn't tell them, and just like we couldn't tell them whenever we could get their engine done. But anyway, let you guys know we're doing a new D-port and round port cylinder head. So watch for that here in the spring of 2024.
Ed Machine said, "Hi Don," and "Hello Don's son." Hello.
Hello.
And so yeah, your round port head and your D port head are going to be. You can use factory intake. You can use factory headers. You can use.
Yep, it's going to be pretty much a direct bolt-on. So you can use your current camshaft, you can use your current intake manifold, your current header, whatever you have right now. You can use all that stuff and bolt it on these heads. The only thing that's going to be a little different, you might have to change push rod length. Only because I put a little bit longer valve in it. And the reason I did that is because Pontiacs, and if any of you guys have messed with Pontiacs much, they don't have any installed height on the springs. And so we had to make the valves a little bit longer than the heads so we can get the spring installed height up around 1950, which gives you a whole bunch of spring options at that point. Factory Pontiac heads only have like a 1/600 installed height, and that leaves no room for a big lift camshaft. And these cylinder heads that I'm getting ready to release, I don't know, this is all speculation, and but you guys know also that I'm not a BSer, and my products that I've already developed and released. But I'm thinking that this new cylinder head that we have is going to make somewhere between, out of the box, if you have the right combination of parts and you have it tuned properly, should be capable of 650 plus horsepower.
So I mean, what's Edelbrock's?
What do you mean?
Like if you take Edelbrock's heads and put them on the same build, run it on dyno, and then take your head, put the same build, run it on the dyno.
Well, Edelbrock, when they first came out with their head, they actually did I think they did a top-end package for Pontiacs. I can vaguely remember the article, or the advertisement. And what they did was they took a flat tappet hydraulic cam that they white boxed, I call it. What they did was they don't make camshafts, they buy them from somebody. So they put them in a white box, put their sticker on it. And it was like a Ram Air 4 cam, which is, we all know that's a decent camshaft. And with their Edelbrock cylinder head, with I think they did it on a 400 with I don't know if they did an 85cc chamber or if they did the 72cc chamber. Might have been the 72. Anyway, they did a flat tappet hydraulic cam, specs like a Ram Air 4, 230, 240 at 50 thousandths with around 500-inch lift. And that head ended up making, I think, somewhere around 500 horsepower. and you guys might know this better than me, and you can go back and look or whatever and share with us. But I believe that it made somewhere around like 518 horsepower, and so comparable, to give you an idea. My cylinder head's going to flow a little over 300 CFM. Edelbrock's flow about 270 to 280.
Non-ported.
Non-ported, yep. So my head should make somewhere, with like a flat tapping hydraulic cam like they tested with, an intake similar, should make 550. So it'll make about 50 horsepower more.
Okay.
So it'll be good heads, real good heads.
Because I know that question's going to come up.
Yep, and we're going to test that. Some of you know that I bought a rear engine dragster, and the reason I bought that was it's old and outdated. It's not ever going to get raced again. But I bought it so we can test engines on the chassis dyno in different combinations. It'll be easy to pull it out. Be like an engine stand on wheels, is basically what I bought it for. And we're going to put a direct drive in it, get rid of the torque converter and all that. That way it doesn't have any slippage or whatever, and we can get a better, more accurate number.
Ed's Machine says he remembers back in the day, Nunzi Automotive was the Pontiac people. Nunzi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. And then in the 70s and 80s, Crower cams were great Pontiac cams.
Yeah, Crower makes good stuff, and you're right. Crower was great Pontiac camshafts. Ultradyne too, and unfortunately, I don't remember his name. I think his name was Jack something that owned Ultradyne, and he worked for a couple different cam companies after he closed his business down. But Ultradyne camshafts, they have asymmetrical lobes on them, and what an asymmetrical is, instead of both ramps being the same, an asymmetrical, one ramp's a little bit different. So he would open the valve real fast, but he would close it real slow, so the valve didn't bounce off the valve seat. And he kind of, I think him and Iskandarian kind of pioneered that technology. And Comp Cams, I believe that he worked for Comp Cams for a little bit, and they've been doing a lot of research here recently. And they've got some really cool profiles that are going to be available real soon.
What cam do you use now, mostly?
Right now, we grind all of our higher end stuff. We don't hardly ever buy an out of the box cam for race applications. For our street stuff, the guys that we're building street engines for, we'll buy Comp Cams or Howard's. But I like Howard's stuff. Howard's is another cam company. Crower, Howard's, and Iskandarian. They had all top shelf stuff. Howard still does. I love Howard's cams. Those are really nice camshafts.
Ed says Ultradyne is now Bullet or Built. B-U-L-L-I-T.
B-U-L-L-E-T, I think. Well, it might be I-T. I don't know. But yeah, Bullet cams. I think they did end up with a lot of his profiles, and several people have told me to go to him to get my Raymer 5 stuff done, and I haven't. I'm pretty loyal to LSM because those guys really treat me good. They turn stuff around pretty quick for me, and when I find somebody that's good to me, I want to return the favor and patronize them. So I stick with LSM. LSM, some of the guys complain about those guys, but you know what? They're like any other business, small business. They're struggling trying to make a living just like everybody else. So everybody's got their problems.
So with like I see you got 3 cams on here.
Yeah.
2 of them look like roller cams.
Yeah, so you know what? Is that camera on right now?
Let me turn it on.
Alright.
There we go.
Alright, so if you guys look at these camshafts, this is a flat tapping cam. And you can see the lobe, well actually first of all you can see that this is a cast cam. See how it's got it's a cast core. And that's what I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah, so the black stuff in between all the shiny metal.
That's a cast cam.
That's the casting markings.
Yeah. And this cam, you can tell this is a billet cam because it's all machined. So they don't cast these, they actually machine these out of a piece of steel rod. And so anyway, with the flat tappet cam, you can tell here, I don't know if you can see it in this camera or not.
Yep.
Okay. See how the lobe is kind of pointy? And, well, they have to do that because of the lifter, right? You know, this is a flat tappet cam lifter. So it's got a sharp edge on it. So it has to ride up over top of that lobe. And so they have to make that ramp real gentle in order for that cam, or for that lifter to go over that lobe. And where with a roller cam, obviously you got a roller lifter and it's got a roller on it. And this, you know, it's easier for it to get up over top of that lobe. And you can see on these roller cams, look at the lobe difference. Now this is a hydraulic profile lobe, and the difference between a hydraulic roller cam and a solid roller cam is the ramp angle. All right, with a hydraulic, it's real, you know, it's not as gentle as that a flat tappet cam, but it's a whole lot more gentle than a solid lifter. And so those lobes on a solid lifter might be almost straight up and down. I don't know if you can see that or not. Can you? Okay. And then on hydraulic, they tilt them in just a little bit, kind of like the flat tappet cam, which is way gentler and easier on valve springs. But something I got out for you guys too, and I don't know if you can see it here in this video or on this camera or not, but look at the cam journal size on that. This is factory. This is 60 millimeter. Okay. This is a Pontiac camshaft. This is going to go into one of my engines when I build it. And the reason that you go with the big cam journal is, or a big cam bearing, because you're increasing the core size. Look at the core size on this one, and look at the core size on this one. Look at this gear.
That's like 3/4 inch compared to like 1 inch.
This is the same size gear, but look at the difference between there. And the reason you do that is because you're giving the core stability, you're giving it strength. So you're making it bigger in diameter so that it can resist spring pressure. Now this is a solid lifter cam, and it's probably hard for you guys to see, but this has pretty much a straight up and down lobe, which is going to make more power because you want to get that valve open as soon as possible, even with a good cylinder head. And the reason that you do that is because you want that valve at max lift as quickly as possible while that piston's moving back down the bore, so you can fill the cylinder with as much charge as you can get in it to make as much horsepower as you can make. Or torque. You're making torque. You're not making horsepower. Horsepower is nothing but a calculation.
Let's see here. Ed's Machine says Ultradyne was famous for high lift, a lot of duration at 50 lift numbers, but low seat duration.
Yeah, they were torquey cams. I love Ultradyne cams. I've got one Ultradyne cam left, and I wish I had all the ones I had ground by those guys through the years, because I had hundreds of cams ground by Ultradyne.
And he says he also likes Isky. Is it Isky? ISKY?
Mm-hmm.
Isky cams as well. Great quality.
Oh yeah, Iskandarian. I think Ed just passed away, I'm pretty sure, this year. I'm not sure, but I think he passed. And actually, Isky used to make flat tappet cams for Ram Air 5s. And they still have all the molds for that. And I contacted them, tried to get them to make flat tappet cams for Ram Air 5, and they don't want to do it. There's not enough demand. And I understand. They're a big company. They don't have time for that.
Well, to have that be thrown into production, I'm sure is a pain in the butt. You have to retool and everything.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not so much retooling, but you know
Well, I'm sure they have something that hold all the tools, so they have to take all that out.
Yeah.
Put that in for.
I would hope that
cams.
I would hope they still maintain all their dimensions, but they may. You might be right. Maybe the old tooling, they changed it through the years and it doesn't work anymore, and that could be why they don't want to do it. So, but yeah. But I wanted to tell you guys about Lobe lift too, real quick. So a lot of guys don't really think about it. It's not that they don't understand; they just don't think about it. But Lobe lift, which is the height from the base circle to the well, actually it's the middle of the base circle to the maximum part of the lobe here. That's the Lobe lift. And then what you're going to do is you're going to multiply that So if your lobe is a 300 lobe, I'm just going to use simple math. So if your lobe is 300 thousandths from here to here, and you multiply that and you got a 1.5 rocker ratio, that's going to give you 450 thousandths valve lift. Now, valve lift means that's gross. It's not actually what the engine sees, because you're going to have things that, like, a little bit of slop in the valve train, you're going to have flex in the push rod, you're going to have flex in the rocker arm, you're going to have flex in the rocker stud, which is another reason why you want to use shaft rockers, not stud mounted rockers, but that's a whole nother show. And but anyhow, lobe lift is different than valve lift. And valve lift you get by multiplying your rocker ratio times the lobe lift.
So your load lift is what the camshaft profile is.
Yeah, what's ground into the cam.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that that's what the valve is going to push into the combustion chamber.
Right. So just, to get your gross valve lift, you take your lobe lift times your rocker ratio. And of course, if you have a, 165 rocker ratio, the lift's going to go up. And that's why you change rockers and put a 165 or 1700 or 1.70 rocker on a camshaft to try to get more lift out of the cam. And lift, that's a question I'm going to ask you guys. So what do you guys feel is the most important part of a camshaft? Is it the lift? Is it the duration? Or is it the lobe separation? So, you know what? Put that in the comments for me if you would. I want to know what you guys feel is the most important. And what I'll do is I'll answer those, you guys through the week as those questions start coming in. Something that happens, I don't know how many people we got viewing right now, but,
12.
we get several hundred people that watch this show, but they don't watch it while we're live. And that's okay. I don't care as long as we get viewers. And so I get a lot of a lot of people, I feel like they don't want to ask questions after the show's over. Ask the question. I will answer whenever I got time during the week. So please put your because it helps our algorithm, and we get more viewers that way.
Now here's my biggest question about camshafts. You look, you're sitting on the crapper, you're strumming through the Summit catalog, and hopefully no one else used it before you. So, and you're looking
What, for wiping her butt or what?
Hey, what happens in that stall stays in that stall, all right?
I'm glad I don't work in that environment.
And you go, they got nitrous cams, they got towing cams, they got what's all the
Yeah, you know what? Good point, son. So advertising gimmicks, they got turbo cams, they got supercharger cams, they got 3/4 race cams. I mean, it's all advertising. Once you start understanding how camshafts work, and like I said, tonight we're not going to be able to get into it real deep, but I'm just touching on things so you guys can think about it. And as you hang out with us, you're going to learn more and more about it. But and you're going to start calling up, and you might design your own camshaft, and you're going to understand why you did it. So I got a good story for you. I got a guy that I built small block Chevys for. He had a top alcohol dragster, and he ran an IHRA. And so, anyways, before I actually understood why lobe separation is so important. I was following kind of along the lines of what everybody was telling me to do, because I didn't understand at that point, and so I didn't want to make a mistake. And I'm building this guy's engines, and I'm charging him for it, and I want him to go fast. Well, he had a 355 small block Chevy, and what we would do is we would take a factory head, fill it full of concrete, hard block, and we would port it till you hit the concrete. That's what we did. And we made the ports as big as we could, shaped them right and everything, put as big a valve in as we could. And so anyhow, he was running a 871 blower with on straight alcohol. And when we first started building his engines, we were using like 112 to 114 lobe separation. Duration was like 280, 288 at 50, and lift was right around 800 inches of lift. And he was making good power with that. I mean, he was doing good. But, I told the guy, I said, listen, I said, I can't get the cam that we normally run. I said, but I can get this cam off the shelf. It's not a blower cam. It's a circle track cam is what it was. And, or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was a super stock cam. I said, I can get this camshaft, but to get you running, and we'll put it in the car and see how it does. And he goes, whatever, man, I got an event to go to, I need to go. So I said, okay, cool. So I get this camshaft, it's got a 106 lobe separation. Before we were running 112, went to a 106. The car turned into a freaking animal. It went from running like 7 flat 17s to like 650s. And we didn't do nothing different except for change the camshaft. So I want you to keep in mind, remember, whenever you got a tight lobe separation, you're trapping more charge. So what we did, and unbeknownst to me at the time, is that we trapped more cylinder pressure, and the engine loved it, and that car just flew.
Ed's Machine says, Don, can you bore the stock Pontiac block from it for a 60 millimeter cam bearing? Is there enough room, and does it weaken the block?
Factory block, no, you cannot. You have to have an aftermarket block. And something that you cannot do either is that you cannot use a roller bearing. You have to use a Babbitt bearing. And actually what happened was when I had this camshaft ground for me, the 60 millimeter cam, they were supposed to grind the rear cam journal to 55 or 50 millimeter. So I got to send it back to them and get it redone, or get that ground down and get it rehardened, because there's not enough room on the back of the block to go 60 millimeter.
And he also said, lift is important to head flow duration at 050 lift for your RPM and course LSA.
Yeah, so, all right, so if you have a good cylinder head, and I'm going to ask this question, I'm going to let you guys figure it out in the comments. If you have a good cylinder head, you say you have a cylinder head, factory heads will say flow 200 CFM. You swap out that cylinder head, and the new cylinder head flows 300 CFM. That's a 100 CFM increase. What is more important to take advantage of that cylinder head? Is it lift? Is it duration? Or is it lobe separation? And that'll make you guys think a little bit and make you understand what I'm trying to express here. And when you start thinking about that, and something you guys should do, so a lot of you guys have engines laying around and cylinder heads. Take a weak spring and put it on your cylinder head, put a valve in it, assemble everything with a solid lifter, and put different camshafts in your engine with a piston in the bore, and watch where the piston is compared to where the valve lift is, and the lobe separation angle, and all those things, and how they make a difference. So, some of you guys, I guess I'm asking a lot, because I got a lot of cams laying around, so it's easy for me to throw a bunch of different cams in. But if you start looking at that, you're going to start realizing, oh man, you know what? There's a lot of factors here that I didn't realize. So look at that and see what you guys come up with. But yeah, so we touched lobe lift, we touched lobe separation angles, cam journal sizes, lift, how we determine lift. And so something we didn't talk about is duration. Now duration basically is the timing of the motor. It's like the heartbeat. It tells you how fast you can run. And cam companies, what they do when they determine low or duration, for all engines, which is kind of sad, but they determine duration for all engines off a small block Chevy 350. Well, does that make a lot of sense to take a 350 cam profile or duration number and put in a 455 or a 454? To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's a big engine. It's a big air pump. Basically, an engine's an air pump. And so you got, uh, if you have a 350 cubic inch motor, and it doesn't matter if it's a Chevy or a Pontiac or I don't care what it is, Mopar, whatever. We don't all have 350s, but no matter what the engine is, 350 cubic inches of engine is going to only require so much duration to get a desired amount of RPM out of it. A 400 a 455 or a 454, I don't care if it's a Chevy or a Pontiac or Oldsmobile, Cadillac, it doesn't matter what it is, it requires more duration because it needs more time to fill the cylinder. The piston speed is faster, or the diameter of the bore is bigger. It's going to pull more air, and you need to give it more time to fill that cylinder to achieve the same goal. And so a good rule of thumb is if a small block Chevy camshaft works good at, say, 210 degrees duration at 50 thousandths, and there's a chart out there, and I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but a 455, I'm just going to use that because it's a 100 cubic inch difference almost, will require roughly about 25 to 30 degrees, well, maybe not 30, but roughly 25 degrees more duration to achieve the same goal. So the smaller the cubic inch engine, the less duration you need. Bigger cubic inch engine, it makes more torque. So you can give it more duration to fill the cylinder. It'll make more power.
All right, we got B&R Racing saying hello and to us.
Hello.
And Tyler Dunnigan said, just drop it off to Don. All I need to know.
Thank you, Tyler.
And B&R said the audio is low, so I turned that up.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry, guys. I'm talking loud. I feel like I'm talking real loud, but apparently my mic's too far away. You know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this thing on my lapel. It looks goofy. I'm sorry. I look like I got I don't know, something on me. Got a disease or something. I don't know. But at least you guys can hear me now.
Ed's Machine said a lot of cam lobes are designed off a small block Chevy. Chevy lobes in a Mopar with a 904 lifter versus an 842 lifter.
Yeah, so you know what? That's another thing too. So you think about lifter diameter. GM used 842, 0.84 2000s. Ford used 0.875, and Chrysler used 0.904. And but Chrysler, if you ever look at some of the Chrysler lifter angles and pushrod angles on their engines, man, they were just, I don't know what their engineers were thinking, but that just, whoa. I mean, it's just weird. But where GM and Ford, they pretty much had everything in line. Chrysler, they would actually put their lifter like that, so they're pushing their pushrod up at an angle. And I think they had to put that big lifter in there to support that load from that pushrod angle. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but it's just weird that they would do that. I don't get it. I mean, we built several Chrysler engines, and they got a real weird angle.
B&R Racing asked, do you like calico coated cam bearings or prefer straight Babbitt?
You know what? Coatings are something that's like, I don't know. I think it's snake oil personally. There are applications where coatings work. Don't get me wrong. I think that a coated bearing might be slipperier. I don't think it offers any more protection. If you lose oil pressure and it's metal to metal, it's going to peel that coating right off. But if you have oil pressure and you're using a good oil, using a good like Teflon surface could reduce surface tension, and it could reduce friction and offer a little bit more power. So yeah, I think they have their place.
As Machine said, small block lifter angles were bad, 59 degrees.
You're talking about Chrysler, I'm sure, because small block Chevys aren't that way. But yeah, Chryslers were a severe angle, really bad. Some of them, they had two different angles, and I don't know the exact angles. You may know them. I don't know, but some of them, like where you said, are 59. The other ones they weren't as quite as severe. But yeah, it's bizarre to me.
BNR Racing said, I never have valve train issues with my factory iron Ram Air 4 614 heads. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Don, one reason why I love them yet.
Yeah, you know what, GM, I hate sounding like I'm all GM, even though I am, but GM did a lot of things right, and because of that, they don't have as many issues as some of the other manufacturers. GM though, with the cannon valve stuff, like a big block Chevy, I got beat up on them a little bit because that big block Chevy cannon valve engine, what would happen is they're hard on camshafts and they're hard on push rods. They're kind of like the Chryslers. Chryslers are like that too, but big block Chevys are like that. And you over rev a big block Chevy, it'll bend a push rod or bounce a valve off the piston, or camshafts go bad all the time. And when they do, it's a major pain in the butt. But yeah, so. But Pontiac and small block Chevys and Oldsmobile and Buick and Cadillac, they pretty much all their valve trains in line, and that, to me personally, that's the way to do it. The less angle and the less side movement you have, the better the valve train stability is. And we're talking about camshafts tonight, but we're going to talk about push rods for just a minute. So if you have a lot of spring pressure and a lot of RPM, you need a heavier wall push rod and a bigger diameter. And so, like a lot of Pontiac, a lot of engines, not only Pontiacs, but a lot of engines, that Buick 401 we just did for, I call him Grant, but his name's Peter. That thing had like a 1/4 inch push rod in it. And we ended up putting a 5/16 heavy wall push rod in it. But you know what? That's another one's got some pretty severe angle on it too. Now that I think about it, but whenever you have a lot of load on the lifter and rocker arm, you have to use a heavier wall. Typical push rod, chromoly push rod, or even a factory one, is only 80 thousandths wall. If we do a high performance and we stay with a 5/16 push rod, we'll get as thick a wall as they offer. Some places only offer 100. Some places you can get 110. Some places are 120. Depends on if you use Smith Brothers or Trend or whatever. Now, comp cams, they don't make their own push rods. They have them made for them, and so you don't have a lot of choices to like cam companies like that. Some of them do. They'll offer different thick walls, but you want as thick a wall as you can get, and then you want as big a diameter as you can fit in the cylinder head. A lot of times you're limited because the push rod hole is not very big, and so that and for factory production type stuff with with a spring that's only got 70 to 100 pounds of, well, not even 100 pounds, probably 70 to 90 pounds of seat pressure, and maybe 220 to 260 pounds of open pressure, an 080 wall 5/16 push rod's fine. But you know what? We're starting to modify these engines now. You know what? When you bring me your engine, you don't want it to rebuilt stock. You want it to make more power. So we're going to spend more RPM, We're going to use a more aggressive cam profile. We're going to use more spring pressure. We're going to have a bigger rocker arm on it. So guess what we have to do? We got to put a thicker wall, bigger diameter push rod, or you're going to get flex. And then you're going to lose lift, and you're not going to gain much horsepower, as much horsepower as you could if you didn't have all that going on.
So why didn't they make the push rods like solid? I know there's a oil hole that goes through it.
Well, they did, but a solid push rod is actually not as strong as a tube. A tube actually has more. I don't know if they call that dynamic or tensile strength. Tensile strength, I think, is like this. But anyway, a solid tube does not have as much strength as a hollow tube.
Bend easier.
Yeah, exactly.
B&R Racing said, thanks, Don. I like Babbitt cam bearings as also. And Ed said, small block Mopar. Tyler said, when's that Judge project start for you? And I'm assuming he's talking about the Le Mans one that we're going to be building the motor for this winter.
Oh, I don't know if he's talking about that or not. I do have a Judge. I've got a 70 Judge, but that project's a little bit further out in the future.
Yeah, that one's very far.
Yeah, yeah. But we do have a 71 Le Mans, and if that's what you're talking about, that the engine I've been working on. As a matter of fact, I worked on it last week, and I shared a couple of shorts where I blew through the intake port, and I'm going to get ready to show everybody how I'm going to fix that this week. Probably not till this weekend, but we got a really good epoxy product that we use, and we're going to fix those cylinder heads. But yeah, I can't wait to get that done. Hopefully I can get my son here this weekend, and we can do some video on block prep, and we'll start getting a short block put together.
Ed's Machine said big block Chevys are now for lifter bore perpendicularity problems.
Yep.
And B&R Racing said big block Chevy needs 3/8 push rods. Upgrade is 9/16 by Smith Brothers.
Yep.
And Ed's Machine said he uses Smith Brothers most of the time. Manton and Trend is great also.
Yeah, Manton, yep.
And then B&R said that big block Chevy is now my number 2 favorite GM engine. Pontiac V8 is first. And Tyler's talking about the one out back. Yeah, that one's not for a while.
Yeah, we got a little ways to go on that car. That's going to be a cool project, though. When I get to that one, it's a real Judge. I don't have the correct engine anymore for it. It's long gone. But it's a black car with a red interior. It's factory black with red interior, and it's a 4-speed car. And it came with a 390 gear, too. So I've got the correct 390 nodular rear end for it. But whenever I do that car, because I'm not gonna Pro Tour it, but I am gonna resto mod that car. And when we do that car, then I'm gonna put tinted glass in it, 3-inch exhaust with the chrome tips or stainless tips like the factory had on them. And I got a Ram Air 4 engine for that car. Although I might end up putting my Ram Air 4 aluminum head that I'm going to come out with on it, because we got factory part numbers on them and everything, so it'll look factory stock. But yeah, that's going to be a cool car, and I'm hoping to find a buyer for that car before we start on it, because then we can build it whatever way they want to build. But my vision is all-wheel disc brakes, tinted glass, 3-inch exhaust, Ram Air 4 that makes about 650 horsepower with a carburetor, not fuel injected, TKO 5-speed or TKX 5-speed, and we'll probably put a 12-bolt under that car at that time, and 17-inch Rally 2s on it, or 18-inch Rally 2s on it with redline tires.
You gonna lower it down?
Probably lower it a little bit, put tubular control arms on it. You know, make it custom. You know, that's what everybody wants now. They don't want the factory stuff. All the old guys that want the factory cars, and I'm sorry, I'm an old guy too. I'm 62 years old, but the thing of it is, you go to the car show and you see a factory car, they're all the same. You know what? Okay, that used to be cool back in the 80s and 90s because we were restoring them to that level. But now, man, everybody wants, you know, they want to enjoy the car, want to get in and drive it. Hydro Boost power brakes, rack and pinion steering,
AC.
AC. We want some
Power
horsepower.
windows.
We want fuel injection. We want it to sound good, and we want big wheels and tires on these things, and Ford 9 inches or Dana 60 rear ends or whatever. But yeah, you know what? The days of restoring them back to original, and I know I'm going to get some flack on that, and there is a place for it. You know what? If you got a really rare car, like I don't know, one of 55 or something, yeah, restore it to original. But if you got a plain Jane, and a Judge isn't plain Jane, but you just got a regular everyday Judge, my car had no options on it. Had heavy duty shocks, 4-speed transmission. That was the only 2 options. So my car was ordered to drag race. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it fun to drive. Might not drag race it, but I'm going to make it fun to drive.
I think it's that beeping noise.
I don't know. Oh, my security cameras.
Oh.
Apparently they're doing a safety check right now.
Let's see here. Let's get caught up on. Ed's Machine said tube is always stronger, 080 to 120 wall. And B&R Racing said that he has never seen Ram Air 4 heads ported that far, let alone D-ports.
I was the first guy to take a set of D-ports back in, it was probably it was in the 90s. I'd say mid to late 90s. I was taking D-ports out to where we were getting 290 CFM out of a D-port head. And back then, everybody told me I was full of crap. And I actually threw a customer out of my shop physically. Because he was telling me that he sent his heads to Butler and they told him that it couldn't be done. I said, okay, whatever, dude. I took his heads back and I got rid of him. Told him to leave.
Tyler says, nuts, can't wait to see. So, yeah, that project's a long ways away, though. Like, a long ways away.
That's going to be a cool car. I can't wait to do that car. I'm going to paint the stripes on that car. The interior will look all stock. I'm not going to do much with the interior. I want to make it so that if somebody wanted to convert it back to original, they could pretty easy, but but it is not going to be factory stock when I get done with it.
No, see, I like custom interiors and...
I like the seats with big bolsters and stuff on them, and my car was a non-console car, so it'd be easy to do, but
I mean, yeah, I'm not crazy about the big consoles. I mean, I'd like to have a console because you need a place to put your beer, but...
Beer and driving?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I do have a customer that does that.
But the bolsters in the seats, I like the suede with the leather look and the color stitching.
Oh, yeah. It does look nice. But you know what, my car, I want to kind of keep the factory feel, but I want it to be custom too. So I'm kind of torn on the interior.
That's one thing I did not like about the GTO seats. They weren't like the Firebird seats. Like, not really racy, but the Firebird seats were a little slender, more sportier looking. The GTO ones were like big, wide.
Well,
more cushion.
You got to understand that the Firebird was more of a sports type car. So
right.
The handling, I mean, where the GTO was based off of the Le Mans, and that was a Le Mans
car.
Yeah, it was a family car.
Yeah.
You could buy that, go to work in it. So,
right.
And you could do it with Firebird too, but yeah.
Ed's Machine said, Don, on the 455 heads, press and studs, do you helicoil or Keensert or Jergens for thread inserts for screw-in studs?
You don't actually have to do anything. If it's got a press-in stud, pull it out and run a tap in it. You don't even have to drill the hole. The hole size is a little bit big for a 7/16 tap, but it still gives you plenty of thread, and you can still torque them to 65 foot-pound. So yeah, you don't have to do anything. Got to machine the rocker pad, or the height of the pad down a little bit for guide plates. But other than that, that's all you got to do.
And then B&R Racing says, I have seen Butler's 6X heads ported conservative. Flow charts were up for speculation.
Yeah. Well, I did a set of heads for a guy one time, and he sent them to another one of my competitors, and he told me what the flow numbers were. He didn't tell him who poured them. He said he poured them, and so he took them to my other competitor and had them float on their flow bench, and I gave him a flow sheet too, and he comes back and he's chuckling whenever he brings me the flow sheet. And I said, "What are you laughing about?" He goes, "You ain't gonna believe what your competitor said about your heads." And I said, "Okay, they probably beat me up. I don't care. It is what it is. I mean, they can say what they want to say. You guys all know what I do." And so he goes, "No." He says, "Take a look at this." Well, my flow bench said the head flowed 290 CFM. Their flow bench said it flowed 320 CFM. I said, "Ain't possible. That head doesn't flow that good." But that's what their flow bench said.
Philip III said the beer is for throwing at people who are driving with the phone in their ear. And Ed's Machine says, thanks, Don. And then SB1320 asked, if you weren't an engine builder, what other career would you have pursued?
Oh, man, you guys like put me on the spot. It's funny you asked that. I was just, and he probably is watching right now. I got a buddy of mine, his name's Al Scrimo. I ran into him at the grocery store, and Al's a really good guy. He's a Pontiac guy. He had a 70 Trans Am. He had I don't know, I think it was a Can-Am, the one with the shaker hood on it. Anyhow, he's had some good running Pontiacs, and I'll tell you a story about Al here in a minute. But anyway, I ran into him at the grocery store, and he goes, Don, he says, you are such a good bullshitter. I think he thinks, I think what he meant was I'm full of shit, but, but anyhow, he goes, anybody ever tell you you're a good talker? You're a really good talker in front of the camera. I said, my wife tells me that all the time. I said, I think I'm timid and I don't come across the way I want to come across to everybody. But so he's telling me I should be doing some kind of a sales job. So maybe that's what I would do. I don't know, sell real estate or I don't know, fly a jet. That's
oh God.
Oh yeah, hold my beer.
No. Oh no.
You guys, if you only knew what happened here at the shop half the time, we need to have a camera in the shop.
Yeah. Let's see here. Ed's Machine said, are there options for guide plates to replace the factory ones which are weak?
Yeah, the factory ones do suck, and Comp Cams makes a guide plate. I don't particularly like them, but another one you can use actually I think it's Dart or maybe Brodix. It might be Brodix or Dart, but they make an adjustable one for the small block Chevys, and what they do is they interlock, and so you can adjust the distance apart. And then once you get those set and you get the push rods lined up where you want them at, and then you can tack weld those so that they don't move anymore. And that's the way to go, because then, and that's a good point. So you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. If you look at a lot of the factory rocker arms, the way they're lined up on the stem of the valve, okay, so the rocker tip on the end of the valve, they're off a little bit. They're not lined up straight. And so what I do is I take the factory ones, because they got those two tangs on them, and I'll pound that tang with a screwdriver one way or the other to move that rocker arm back and forth to get it lined up better on the tip of the valve. Well, with the interlocking ones, you can move those in and out till you get that tip lined up perfect on the valve, and then tack weld that together.
B&R Racing said, the only problem with a lowered car hot rod is that an unexpected pothole hit, especially at sunrise, sunset, nighttime, smashed header tubes.
Yeah, and that indeed. But yeah, that's just something you got to be overcautious whenever you have a lowered vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then Philip III said they need to recalibrate their flow bench. And
Yeah,
then,
it's a JKM, which I've heard are very, very liberal. They give a lot of flow.
B&R Racing, Escuderian?
Escuderian,
Escuderian? What's that?
Cam,
Oh, it's a can?
Iski. Yeah.
Oh, it's Iski? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
I've never seen it spelled out that way. I've always just seen Iski.
Yeah. That's his last name, Escuderian.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
But yeah, so we got a lot of fun things. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. We have to come up with something. Camshafts this week because of the overlap I wanted to share with that. So, you know, to tie this in with the header thing that we did last weekend, you know, when you start tuning your camshaft to match, or your header tubes to match your camshaft, I shouldn't say, the camshaft is like the heart of the engine. It determines what RPM range you're going to run and how much torque you're going to make. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to use the headers and the intake, and you're going to complement once you get a good cylinder head. So, you know what, maybe we'll talk about cylinder heads next week. That'd probably be a good thing to talk about because, you know, I can show you guys what I'm doing with the Ram Air 4 head and show you why I'm porting them the way I am. I did a short this week, and I asked a couple people, and a couple people interjected, but I think they missed a little bit of what I got going on down in that bowl area when it goes over the short turn. And I'll explain all that to you guys whenever we get the heads done. And next week we can talk about cylinder heads.
Philip III said he hasn't heard that name in a while. And yeah, because Iski, I mean, no one really says Iski anymore.
No, you don't hear hardly anything about Iski. That guy was a smart guy. There's a lot of YouTube videos of him right now. For whatever reason, they're popping up on my YouTube channel. And I do believe he passed, but he's older and his brain's a little bit slower, but he is explaining a lot of things. And Iski was a pioneer. That guy figured out a lot of things.
And then Tyler asked, relating to industry outlook, what do you think the powder coating / specialty coating markets will do long term?
You know what? Powder coating obviously is a paint. You know, it's just applied and then heated so it adheres better and is a little more durable. But I think that the coating industry is going to pick up quite a bit. We're going to start seeing, because we're going to have powdered metals, and we're going to have 3D printers that are going to print parts, steel parts or aluminum parts or titanium or whatever. And when you got that going on, you got porosity. So coatings are going to be real critical, I think, in the future. I think that's going to be a very, very good business industry to get into. And whoever can figure that out and capitalize on it's going to make out big time. Another thing is cryogenics. That's huge, and that's going to get really big too.
Ed said Hedman used to make best budget headers for Pontiac.
Yep, Hedman headers are good headers. I like Hedman headers. Better than Hooker.
Yeah. Hooker, we've had nothing but problems with Hooker.
Hooker, the flanges are warped all really bad, and they don't fit, and you got to beat the heck out of them, and yeah.
And their ceramic coating's always flaking.
Yeah, don't get, that's a good point. We didn't talk about that with headers last week, but do not get your headers ceramic coated from the manufacturer. The coating on those things, they don't get the oil off of them or the rust off of them, and that coating only lasts about a year or two. And you're paying a lot of money for that for nothing. So get the plain steel header, get it fitted to your car, beat the hell out of them, whatever you got to do to make them fit. get the flanges straight, get them belt sanded, weld up the areas around the openings, and then have them belt sanded so they're flat and they fit against your head real nice. And then
Around the holes.
yeah, yeah. Make sure your holes are all, oblonged out with the die grinder so you can get all the bolts in and everything fits good. And then take them and get them ceramic coated.
And that costs what, $300?
It depends. I've got a really good ceramic coater here that we use, and he's been very, very fair to me. I don't know what his current prices are. But it's called New Image over in Boardman, Ohio. Jim's the owner's name, and he does a really, really good job. He makes sure that he gets all the oil off the steel. He blasts the headers, and he does it right. Him and his guy, I don't know what his employee's name is, but anyway, I take all my stuff to him, and I've got headers that are, because I've been using him since he opened up, I've got headers that are 25, almost 30 years old, and they still look like the day he coated them for me. So if you find a good coater, but his coatings, it depends on what you get. You can get black or you can get silver. I think he offers another color, maybe orange, I don't know. But black, I think, is the cheapest because he has to put the black on and then the silver over top the black. That's why it costs more. And I don't know what his prices are now, but it's roughly between $400 and $600.
Let's see here. Oh, here we go. B&R Racing said the ultimate fun, I think, would be a Pontiac 455 or any cubic inches installed into a Corvette.
Hey, I'm looking for like a 61 or 2 Corvette gasser. If you guys know anybody, I don't want an engine or driveline. I don't care about tranny or engine, but I would like to have an old 61 or 2 Corvette gasser, and I want to put a ram air 5 with stack injection in that. That's what I want to do.
Philip III asked, what do you think of the Edelbrock heads for Pontiac? Are they a good start?
They're not bad. You know what? They work. I like Edelbrock heads. They give you a decent platform. The problem with Edelbrock, well, I shouldn't say a problem. Edelbrock was smart. What they did was they took factory cylinder heads for AMC or Oldsmobile or Pontiac and Chrysler, and they basically just copied the factory head and gave you a little bit better than factory. It wasn't a lot, but it was a little bit better than factory. And they give you a little bit of meat to work around, but unless you get into their Pro Series heads, which they call self-porting or Pro Porter heads, the stuff that you buy off the shelf, they're better than factory. You can run more compression because they're aluminum, and they give you a little bit of room to get some more performance out of them. And so I think they filled a good niche. That was great. Although Edelbrock got bought out, and it's not owned by, poor, I don't know what his first name was, but Mr. Edelbrock, we're going to call him. Victor, yeah, Victor Edelbrock. He passed and his daughter took over, and they sold the company to some big corporate deal. And they're getting rid of a lot of stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to do my own cylinder heads, because I feel like they're going to get rid of the Pontiac stuff. They already showed us that a little bit in the last couple of years, because you couldn't get Pontiac cylinder heads or intakes for roughly a year. And but you could get a small block Chevy intake or head. So that tells me that they're going to wean away from the slow movers and get into the high volume stuff, and that's okay. That's good business. But it leaves an opportunity for me. So
Ed said, Ed said that hookers were bad back in the day for Pontiac. Philip III says he's known of cryogenic for a long time now. He's surprised that they haven't seen it more. B&R Racing said Hooker Hawley dropped Pontiac Rammer 4 round port headers.
Yep.
And he's also had good fitment with Hooker Super Comps 4202. Never had to beat the header tubes any. bought his second set back in 2017. And he also said $sign because it's a C1 Corvette. And
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna. There's one that I missed. I should have bought it. It was on eBay, and it went for $32,000, and I should have bought that car. And it had an engine in it, but I didn't care about the engine. But it was a cool piece of history, and I should have bought that car. But that's neither here nor there. It is what it is. And if it don't work out, don't work out. I'll find something else to play with. And we got that Le Mans we're playing with right now. And we are going to build a Ram Air 5 engine. We're going to put it in that Le Mans probably. And I've got some really cool transmission options too. I don't know if you guys know what a Jeffco is. It's basically a Lenco that you can drive on the street. And the guy's name is Jeff, of course. And he worked for Lenco. Tried to talk them into doing a street transmission. They wouldn't do it. So he said, okay. And he started his own company and he called it Jeffco. And I have one of those trannies. So we're going to play with that, maybe in the Le Mans. And then we can do some stick shift drag stuff. I also have a Jericho clutchless transmission too. That's good for about 1,000 horsepower. So we might play with that in the car too. I don't like maintenance with clutches. That's why I'm hesitant, but you know what? I got my son, he can work on it.
yeah, and I got Lou.
No, it's you.
Philip III says, I know of a Angela fuel altered chassis in Alabama.
Anglia.
Anglia?
Yeah.
What's that?
They call them Angliatopias. They used to make a lot of drag cars out of it. Stretch wheelbase. The ones that got looks like an old like 33 Ford Coupe or something with a real cool looking slope nose on it.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking
They're
about
little
now.
tiny cars. They're not very big. They did a lot of, back in the day, they did AA fuel out of those. Yeah.
I didn't know about Edelbrock. Rest in peace, Vic. And how much are your heads going to be?
I don't know. I'm going to try to keep them comparable to the Edelbrock head. Although you guys have to remember too that my product is going to be better, not only in quality because I'm going to use a higher end product like better valves, better springs, retainers, keepers. A lot of these manufacturers, they use the cheap stuff because they're trying to keep the price down and sell volume. And that's okay. I don't need to sell 1,000 sets of heads a year. Well, that'd be nice. But I would like to sell 300 to 500 sets of heads a year. But I want everybody to be happy with them when they get them. So I'm going to use a higher end valve and a higher end valve spring, a higher end retainer and keeper on the valve, and a higher, valve seals or whatever. And we're going to use a higher grade aluminum. So, if Edelbrock heads right now for the round ports are selling, I think they're roughly around $3,100, $3,200. My head might sell for $34, $35. But the Edelbrock head only flows 270 CFM. Mine's going to flow, we'll say 320. So that's 50 CFM that if you had to take the Edelbrock head and have it ported to where I'm at right now, you're going to spend another $1,000 to $1,500. So, you know what? It's still a bargain.
Well, you're also better seats.
Oh yeah, we're going to use better valve seats.
Yeah.
We're going to have better valves, better valve guides. Edelbrock guides are not the greatest. So, but and then Speedmaster, I'm not even going to compete with them guys. That's all Chinese stuff and it's all garbage. I will not. I won't even. If somebody brings me a set of them heads, I'll tell them I don't even want to do nothing with them.
B&R Racing said 32,000 is a steal for a C1 Corvette.
Yeah, I know. I should have bought it. I hesitated only because I thought I was going to get these new cylinder heads done and I needed the money for that. And I'm kind of in that boat again right now. So, I put money aside to do this project and I want to get it completed. I want to get these heads to everybody. It's important to me. I had to sell the Tiger head only because I ran out of money. And I was learning at that time too. That was the first cylinder head I ever made. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was listening to people I shouldn't have been listening to. And I was going to foundries I shouldn't have went to. And I should have started off different. You know what? I should have started as a round table with my CNC guy that's going to machine the head, my foundry over here, my tooling maker over here, and me over here. And I didn't do that. And so I learned a lot doing that cylinder head. And that made it a little bit better from my Ram Air 5, and I even learned more from the Ram Air 5. So now that I'm doing these two new heads, now I got a good handle on this.
Philip III said he's seen videos of your heads, and he's liking what he is seeing. He'd buy a set and then go find an engine.
Well, hopefully you're a Pontiac guy. But yeah, so yeah, that, you know what, I've spent years and years and years doing flow analysis and development, and that's why I designed my own cylinder heads and started making my own heads, because I see, you know, I've seen all these head manufacturers making heads, and they're not even close to where they need to be. And I feel bad for people that go spend good money on these cylinder heads and products and expecting big things out of them. And these guys are not research and development people. They're just monkey see, monkey do. They copy somebody else's idea, or they copy another product or whatever. And whenever they do that, they're inheriting all the problems that that product or other person has. And I'm not that guy. I'm the pioneer. I am beating down the bush, cutting down the trees. I'm figuring it out. So, yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm glad you guys are interacting tonight. That's good. It gives us something to talk about, and it gets me off a little bit of what I was wanting to tell everybody, but that's okay. I don't mind. You know what? If I missed something, just ask. But yeah, we covered a lot tonight. Yep. That was good. Yep. And that's what this is about. This is what bench racing is. You know what? Bullshit and having a couple of beers. Hopefully you guys are having a refreshment of your choice, and you guys are enjoying the evening.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And hopefully we can get back to making videos again. I still got to make the video of the push rod.
Well, no, the rocker adjustment.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Rocker arm adjustment.
Yeah. I had a couple people ask me about that. So, yep. Yeah, we got to get that done.
I got to put that together.
So, you know what? Beat this guy. Bray him a little bit. Make him do what he's supposed to do.
Trust me, I do it enough on my own.
But yeah, we have a lot of stuff we're going to cover, and this is fun. You know what I mean? This is for me to relax a little bit. I enjoy it. I'm balls to the wall during the day. We got so much going on here at the shop, and I don't have enough help. And so I try to cram a lot in a week and try to maintain what I'm doing. And I got goals I'm setting. I want to try to increase my revenue every year, and it's just hard. You know, we got a lot going on.
Philip III says he's been driving Pontiac since the 70s. My first was a 350, and then a 428, and two 455s.
Nice. The
last one was in a 73 Trans Am.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Mm-hmm. I love the 70 to 73 TAs. You know what? I like the Trans Ams all the way up to 81. I'm not going to lie. I had a 97, and it was okay, but I really like the old ones. It didn't handle the 97 didn't handle as good as my, I had a 78, and I've had a couple of 70s. I had a 73, and the 97 didn't handle as good as those cars did.
You had the 92 as well, that black one.
Well,
with gold wheels.
That was an 87.
Oh, that was an 87. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yep.
I just vaguely remember that when I was little.
Yeah, that had an 87 Trans Am with a 2-port injection on it. So, yep.
Ed said, good night, everyone. Great live, Don and Brandon. Good seeing everyone. It was good seeing you, too, and hopefully you liked it.
Good night, Ed. And you know what? We probably got to wrap this up. I don't know what time it is. I think it's a little bit after 8, so it's time to quit. But yeah, thank you guys all for showing up, and make sure and share this so that everybody else can come and join us next week. And any questions, ask them in the comment section, and we'll try to get to them during the week.
Yep, absolutely. They put this.
And you know what? Real quick, I know a lot of you guys are watching and you don't interact. Please interact. Some of you can't because maybe don't have a YouTube account, and I'm the worst tech guy in the world when it comes to this kind of crap. That's why I got my son. So anyway, I figure out how to get on here and ask questions. We get usually a couple hundred viewers, but it only shows up as like 12 to 15 or 20 or whatever when we're doing our live. And I think a lot of it is because either the people are afraid to get on and talk or ask questions, or they don't know how, or they don't have an account with YouTube. I don't know, but figure all that out, because you know what? The more we get involved, the better it's going to be. So please interact.
Mm-hmm. Thumbs up, everyone. Keep up the great videos. Have a good night, Don and Brandon. That's from Tim. Coriat?
Yep, Corsiat.
Philip III said anything after no lead or lead, maybe. I'm not interested.
No lead fuel.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah.
No lead fuel, yep. Gary Andrews said that he is an old school Pontiac guy. What are your thoughts on the 04, or if the 04 to 06 GTOs, they've grown on me?
Well, I own an 06 GTO. Actually, my wife bought the car brand new. We bought it with 17 miles on it. And it's a fun car. It has a lot of issues that we had to get fixed. One of them was the struts went bad right away, like within 1,000 miles, but GM replaced those for us. And the front control arm bushings and all the front suspension bushings, they all went bad, and we had to have all them replaced. And the seats split, the paint comes off the door handles. What else is going on with that car? It has its quirks. And but you know what? My wife loves the car. We still own the car. We bought it brand new in 06, and it's got, I think, roughly around 68,000 miles on it now. We don't drive it in the winter, but the car's fun. And my wife drives the car to the track with the AC on, and the car runs with her driving it. She just leaves it in drive, and she don't do a burnout. She don't do anything. She just takes this track, puts it in drive, and hammers the throttle, and it runs like, her best ET's been a 1342. Consistently, it'll run 1360. And that's pretty good for a new car, you know? I mean, it's 400 horsepower. It's good.
Philip said, except for his 98 Grand Prix GTP.
Yeah, those are good cars.
You had...
I had a 98 Grand Prix. It wasn't GTP, though.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, I don't have a GTP. I never had a GTP. But yeah, nope. I've had, Grand Prix are awesome cars from the early 90s, well, actually late 80s to the mid 90s, even late 90s up to 99. Those cars they're inexpensive, they're cheap to drive, they get like 30 miles a gallon, and they're inexpensive to repair. So I love them cars. I just can't find one. I used to drive one for work. I don't know, probably 10, 15 years I had one of those cars.
Yep. You can see your feet sticking out of the bottom of them.
And my last one I sold to a buddy of my brother's that he needed a car, and I maintained my stuff. I had just put new battery in it, new brakes on it, new brake lines, and I don't know, I did a lot of maintenance to the car, but the rockers are toast on it because we live in Ohio and they put salt on the roads. But anyhow, I sold it to him for like $1,200, and I told him, I said, dude, I no guarantee. I don't know how long this thing's going to last, because I sold it to him and it had like 300,000 miles on it when I sold it to him. And he put like another 200,000 miles on that car. I couldn't believe it.
Peter Schilling says, hey guys, sorry he's late.
Hey, Peter.
Then
Actually, Grant.
Philip III L67 supercharged 3.8.
Nice.
So he's got the
Yeah.
good motor.
Oh, yeah. Those are quick.
Yeah.
They run 13s.
And he said that he would sell his to you.
I love them cars. Right now, my wife's got an '09 Cadillac CTS, and I hate that car. I want to get rid of that car so bad. I want to get her like a 2015 Tahoe or something, an LTZ Tahoe or Suburban.
But I think that's going to do it for us.
Yeah, guys, thanks for coming along, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
Yep. All right, everybody. Have a good night.